One, one thing is for certain when we start talking about behavior based safety, there's lots of different models out there, not only for the behavioral based safety model, system safety, safety management systems, but also the way that you define your organization or what your organization looks like. I don't believe one model is better than the other, but some do fit organizations better than others. However, we all seem to agree as safety and health professionals that you start from this emerging level where you develop your management commitment and you get to that point where it's self sufficient, where you're actually looking to, it develops itself from the inside out and it becomes more of a homegrown type of management. And so, with increasing consistency, we can improve the safety culture, going from one of pure compliance to one that actually operates more closer to the models that the FAA likes to see. And so, when we take a look at our organizational culture, there are four main types of cultures, and you could have 6 or 12. It really depends on which model you're taking a look at. But an organizational culture is this set of values, beliefs, attitudes, systems, and rules that outline and influence employees' behavior within an organization. The culture reflects how employees, customers, vendors, and stakeholders experience the organization and its brands. And we don't confuse this with the mission. The culture is something that grows out of the policies and the procedures and the way that management takes a look at its employees and the way it deals with its employees, all the way from, or the way it just deals with its within itself, all the way from ordering supplies and who they're ordered from and how they come in, to the way the waste is picked up and moved off of the facility. All this is a reflection of the organization itself and its beliefs and values, and that's what influences the employees' behaviors. So you can see in this model, they're giving us 4 basic frameworks, from a dynamic, entrepreneurial-like organization to a results-oriented organization. And then we have some things in between. And so when we put it into this grid system, we can see we have interdependence versus independence, and we have stability versus flexibility. And so there's definitely a gradient of the core values that fit inside of this organization. But we're breaking it down into 4: clams, autocracy, hierarchy, and a market type of economy. And so the components of your organization are the way that it problem solves and copes on a day-to-day basis based on the behaviors and the activities of the individuals that are either learned through policies and procedures or learned through other employees, right? So, sometimes it's easier to teach a dog to pee outside if the dog that you currently have is already peeing outside, because your dog number 2 is able to see that and it learns from this experience. And humans are somewhat the same. We emulate what we see because we think it's the right thing to do, and most of us want to please our organization. So let's start with our adequacy culture. And this is defined by individuals initiate the cultural change. It's innovative and risk-taking. It's highly organic structure, which means it grows and changes, ebbs and flows. And that's the most mature type of organization where it's not constrained, right? So it's not being micromanaged. And to develop this type of culture, it definitely depends on the industry. Certain industries would not allow itself to it. But it gives you the ability to implement changes through brainstorming sessions and by including the employees in every step in the process.
It's no surprise that Google, one of the world's most sought-after employers, has one of the best company cultures in the world. With over 100,000 employees in 50 different countries, Google is the golden standard for company-employee relations. Its main office, called the Googleplex, is located in Mountain View, California, and is the home for roughly 25,000 of Google's employees. However, Google has offices in countries such as Germany, Turkey, and New Zealand. In 2013, Regency Enterprises released the movie The Internship, which stars Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. This film follows the journey of Vaughn and Wilson as they embark on the adventure of a lifetime, getting jobs at Google through their internship program. While the movie is not entirely factual, Kylie Ewing, Google's Director of Talent and Outreach, said the insights on the company's culture is spot on. From nap pods to free yogurt, the perks of working at Google are seemingly endless. Let's look into some of the main reasons why Google has won Comparably's Best Company Culture Award the past 3 years. First, creativity is encouraged at Google. Google has a firm understanding that as happiness increases in an employee, so does productivity and creativity. So Google doesn't put restrictions on where employees must work. Googlers, as they're called, are encouraged to work in any environment they please, such as a lounge area, the cafeteria, or even a beanbag chair. Wherever employees can focus and perform best is where Google prefers them to work. Second is the employee transparency at Google. Google's organizational structure is flat, thus encouraging any and all employees to share their voice. A flat organizational structure is one that allows communication between employees at any level, which means that a lower level employee can share their thoughts and ideas with the CEO, for example. While this open door policy can be successful, it can also limit an employee's eagerness and ability to voice their opinions. This option to speak up is always there, but there can be fear of repercussions, no incentive for giving feedback, or no system in place to see any movement of the solution to a problem. In Google's case, company culture starts with hiring employees who are eager to share their ideas. Then they allow their employees the freedom to do so in the workplace. Third is Google's defined core values. One of the biggest reasons why Google continues to be an innovator and leader in their industry is because they have a clear idea of their values and goals. In fact, they have a web page where they list their 10 core values. Here are a few of them. First, focus on the user and all else will follow. Since creation, Google has focused on providing the best user experience possible. When designing a new web browser or tweaking their homepage, they make sure it will ultimately serve the user, rather than an internal goal or the bottom line. When designing their search engine, Google made sure that the homepage was clear and simple and that the results loaded instantly. This ensures that people of all ages can use it. Second, fast is better than slow. Google knows that the time of their users is valuable, so they make sure that people get their questions answered right away. They are one of the few websites in the world who want people to leave their site as quickly as possible. By shaving excess bits and bytes from their pages, Google has broken their own speed records many times over. Third, great isn't good enough. Google sees being great at something as a starting point, not an end point. Whether it is creating a new mobile app or developing a new office program, they always strive to be better. They set goals they can't reach yet, because stretching goals allows people to get further than they ever expected. The fourth reason for Google's exceptional company culture is it financially supports its employees. Google doesn't only pay its employees nicely, they also provide them with personal finance assistance to ensure they always stay in good financial health. They understand that not everyone has a firm grasp on finances, and a lack of financial education may lead to debt and other issues. Googlers have access to free, on-site financial advisors and planners. These experts assist employees with debt, investing, general finance advice, and even file taxes. Fifth, mobility within the company. Another way that Google seeks to keep employees happy is by paying attention to their strengths and weaknesses. If an individual is working in a very technical position but shows more strengths in marketing or sales, they can transition to that field while still staying at the company. Google would much rather keep their talent and transfer them to another department than lose an employee. Therefore, mobility and promotion within the company is not uncommon. These are 5 great reasons why Google has some of the best company culture in the world. From allowing them to release their creativity to helping them with finances, you can tell that they truly care about their employees. Now for the question that if I would like to work at Google. And the answer is absolutely. Not only would it be the opportunity of a lifetime to work at one of the largest and most prestigious companies in the world, but you can tell that Google truly wants what's best for their employees. They care about their well-being, attend to their needs, and want them to be the best employee they can be for themselves and the company. A chance to work at Google is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that anyone would be foolish to pass up.
Okay, so I am not, of course, advocating working for Google. It's just an example. A clan is a group of close-knit and interrelated families or groups of people with strong common interests, and therefore clan cultures are common in small family-owned businesses that are not hierarchy in nature. Employees are valued regardless of their level, and the environments are very supportive. Companies like Tom's of Maine and Chobani are examples of clan-type cultures where you had Facebook and Google being the example of the adequacy type of culture. So in your clan culture, it aims to work collaboratively with in team settings so that everybody feels equal. People provide feedback, and they're able to do that honestly and not have any feeling that they're going to be reprimanded or negative outcomes. The downside of this type of culture is it's difficult to maintain as an organization grows, and it has lack of fluidity or changeability when compared to other types of cultures. So our hierarchy culture is one that we really see a lot in corporate America. We see this in the military. It's very stable and sufficient. It's very stable and efficient, and it usually has a very strong set of rules that are associated with it. Employees in this culture generally know precisely where they fit in the chain of command, who they're accountable to, and what the rules of engagement are. So when we compare this to a clan culture where the worker bee may be able to go to the CEO, this would never happen in your hierarchy culture. It tends to be quite flexible because it can grow and shrink with the size of the organization based on what is occurring at that time. And so there are, of course, teams, but they're usually more associated with departmental assignments and within the hierarchy of the organization. And then the last one in this comparative of 4 is a market culture. And a market culture is something, for example, a culture like Amazon or General Electric or Tesla, where we're really looking at that profit margin, and that's what's important to enable the organization to work and to stay ahead. This type of culture tends to commend competitiveness and is really results oriented. Leaders are inspiring, but yet quite demanding. That's how you get ahead market wise. And they'll offer top-notch services and try to keep pace with other organizations that are similar to them. This culture has the ability of longevity, but employees can get burned out in this type of culture because you're constantly in that state of providing your return on investment within a certain time period and wanting it relatively quickly, looking at the changing needs of a market. So an organization within itself, of course, these are flexible. They can be one part of the organization may have a certain type of culture, and another part of the organization may gravitate towards another part of a culture, and then the actual true culture is somewhere in between. But things like the recruitment process, the onboarding process, performance management, skills development, how employees are disciplined, employee surveys of engagement, this is ways in which a culture not only grows inside of an organization, but a culture can take a look at how well it is doing. And so what are our visible processes inside of our organization? So think about when you walk through the door, what do you see and how does that engage you? So something that I always look at, and you probably do too, what's the housekeeping like? Are the garbage pails empty? Are they hidden in a spot where they don't stand out so much? What does the waiting room look like? Is it dusty? Does it have maybe any magazines in it that are from 1997? Looking at the art on the wall, is it hung evenly in decent frames, or is it cracked and screw gunned to the wall? All these things are visuals that are telling you what the organizational structure actually looks like and what the underlying policies and procedures may be based on what you see, right? So if you walk into the changing room, it hasn't been updated in a long period of time, maybe the lockers are broken. Well, we know that our organization isn't really paying attention to the needs of the employees. So we like to think that our organizational cultures are adaptive over time and that they'll change with the values and the strategies of the corporate culture itself. And so sometimes it's these signages, and that's what the example from the slide was. Don't be safety blinded, be safety minded. So what does that tell you about the organization? Do your work with pride. Put safety in every stride. What does that tell you about the organization? Or is the safety built so innately into the organization that these reminders aren't quite so visible? And I know that that really has to do with the size of an organization. Smaller organizations, you might not need as many visual reminders as in larger organizations. So the contents of these various strategies and philosophies are what's going to make these changes over a period of time. And our safety mission statements, our safety slogans, they tell us about our commitment to safety and where the organization is trying to grow from. So organization grows out of these keystone habits, and every organization, whether their leaders are aware of it or not, are showing the workers the beliefs and the values that are important. So if you're on a construction site and your foreman is not in safety-toed shoes, constantly forgets to put on their safety glasses, well, you can't expect the workers to do something different because this is what they see, right? And we tend to emulate what we see. Habit is also a part of cultural growth. And so on the left-hand side of the slide here, you see some of these safety slogans again. So as our culture evolves over time, so do our habits and our behaviors. And it could be almost involuntary once we start changing this culture from the bottom up. And as we get further into the class, hopefully some more ideas will come to light. If you are a seasoned safety and health professional, you recognize that there are no level of rules and use of a stick that we can put into place that will make a difference as much as when the organization has safety built right into it. So different types of organizations operate in different ways. And I was once working at a university and was quite taken aback that basic lab inspections, which should have occurred once a month, were not even taking place, and yet I was in an organization where we're teaching safety and health. And so it shows that that inner working, right, our safety and health department was not was not able to influence the organization of that university itself to make a change. So some different aspects of culture, the psychological effect aspect of it is how people feel, what's in their hearts and minds. Then we have that behavioral aspect, what people do on a day-to-day basis with decisions they make. And then our situational aspect, what the organization has to offer. Are you working in an organization that doesn't have a respiratory protection program and therefore everybody is behind on their fit testing? That will tell you that as we take that situation and we roll it backwards, if we're behind on our fit testing, we're not reminding people how to take care of our respirators, they're probably going to have poor behaviors when it comes to housekeeping and other aspects of using that respirator. So, how do people feel? Sure, I'll use the respirator if I need to, but I forget to put it in a bag and clean it up. And why is that? Because there's no organizational structure in place that's keeping me in line. Safety culture is defined by our different values, our self-disciplines at all levels of worker, artisan, through senior leadership, and then what our leadership sees as itself. So safety culture is a combination of attitudes, values, perceptions that influence how something is actually done in the workplace rather than how it should be done. So how are we doing it versus how should we do it? And we know that there seems to be always a gap between what the SOP says and how the SOP is actually able to be implemented. And the best organizations are the ones that bring both of these together and are listening to both how it's being influenced, how it's being done, and then the way it should be done. And so transformation takes place slowly over time. We have what people feel, what they do, and what they think. And then we have the expectations of management that need to stay stable over time to influence our outcome or our product, which is our safety culture. And you've probably seen this before, where we have going from a state where we do just the bare minimum to get by, little workforce involvement, just using compliance as a starting point, and our incidence and illness rates will decrease over time, and we'll go from more of a compliance-based culture to a commitment-based culture. So of all the slides that we've taken a look at today in this learning unit number 2, this one here seems to be the one that really brings all these different elements together and shows you how you can, or how your organization will progress over time from just belonging to the safety program or the safety culture to actually owning it and moving forward and having the ability as the safety manager to go from directing everything that's happening to responding to the needs of the employees, and they become actively involved. And it's also things that we take a look at, right? So in your first phase, where you're basically compliance-based, you're looking at those lagging indicators. You're constantly responding to the latest injury rates. Where in phase 4, where you have more of an excellent model of safety culture, you as a safety professional are the guru, and what you're doing is really empowering people to belong to the program and take ownership. Then you have more of a safety scorecard, and what that means is it's balance. It's not just compliance. It's not just those lagging indicators. You're even going ahead and you're in front of those leading indicators, meaning you're looking at things like leadership involvement and measuring that, in addition to taking a look at your injury and illness rates. But if you are the safety professional and you are the one authority and you're constantly having to push safety down in the tailgate safety meetings instead of having somebody who takes ownership and brings it out, then you don't even have time to measure your leadership involvement. And if you do, you'd find it kind of lagging to begin with, right? Leading and lagging indicators. But I really like this slide that looks at the 4 different ways in which we're able to, or the way we can see how an organization is changing over time. And you can work in an organization for a long period of time and it may never change. And you're just going to, try your very best to make small different movements of that needle, so over time you're closing a gap from a compliance-based to a self-sufficient safety culture. And so there's always going to be a gap between what we know and do as occupational safety and health professionals and what our leadership needs to learn and understand about safety and health, so that they can be more embracing of the process and help us in our resources. A lot of times leadership will proclaim how important safety is, but they're not buying into it. And a good example of this is you see your CEO leaving the property, driving and texting, when that CEO expects everybody who drives a company vehicle not to do so. Right? So is that CEO really embracing the safety culture? Or are they just kind of saying what we want to hear? So in summary, safety is the interaction in the organization of the beliefs, values, and structure, but it's also important to, note the tools, the equipments, and the materials in which we use to ensure that we're getting, as safety and health professionals, or the people who are doing the manufacturing, are getting what they need, right? Are they able to get a new pair of safety glasses if they need one, or are they constrained in some way? We know that there's the physical aspects as well as the social aspects of a culture. But really what culture comes down to are these beliefs and these values that are built from leadership down. It's built from leadership down, and it's also built from the bottom up. And so going back to the slide again, are we just at that level of compliance? Or is our consistency able to increase and we have improved and learned, and now we're at that part where we're continually evolving and we have continuous improvement in place instead of just this emergement of let's do the minimum we have based on what is required due to compliance. And again, this is another slide in which helps us see these different levels and where is our organization right now. So I leave that with you. Where is your organization? And I hope you have a good day.